Revit is difficult.
Yeah.
And not only is it difficult, no one ever, I always ask people when they come in for interviews, if you could rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best in Revit, where would you rate yourself? And by the way, no one is a 10. And I always say that to people because there's so much to learn in Revit that there's just absolutely no one that knows everything about it.
You're now listening to Design Curious, a place where you, creative one, are here to learn about what it really is like to be an interior designer. And I'm your host and mentor, Rebecca Ward. If you're worried about how to succeed in a creative career, if you're ready to learn your next steps to become an interior designer, and if you want the satisfaction of doing something you love every day, you are in the right place. Grab a coffee, a notebook, and let's dig into today's episode. Hello, and welcome to episode 202 of Design Curious Podcast. Today on the podcast, we have returning guest, Marcy Sagel. She was back on episode 158, if you want to hear that conversation, which was very good. We talked about commercial design and Revit and everything. And that comes back a little bit today as we continue our conversation and about the opportunity she has for designers of really improving their skills. And let me just remind you again about who Marcy is. She is the founder and principal of MSA Interiors, which is a leading commercial interior design firm specializing in multifamily housing, student housing, senior living, affordable housing, and other complex commercial projects. With over 30 years of industry experience, Marcy has established herself as a trusted expert in creating innovative, functional, and aesthetically compelling spaces that align with her clients' strategic goals. Today, she is talking a little more about what she has to offer. So let's go ahead and listen to Marcy. Hey, Marcy, welcome back to Design Curious Podcast. It's great to have you here again.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm grateful to be here.
Yeah, it's been about a year or so since we spoke. And in the meantime, it sounds like you've been busy. And so why don't you kind of go over the project that you had that has launched this year?
So sure. So we are in the commercial interior design realm. We specialize in multifamily and student housing and all kinds of multifamily housing, every kind. Basically, we have been teaching and a lot of people over the years that have worked for us of how to work in Revit for interior designers, which is a little bit different than architects. We have taught everybody in-house how to render, and we work in very large spaces. So we wanted to create a product that we could put out there for other interior designers that they could learn how a commercial designer works and utilize some of the different modules that we created so that they could help their skill sets. So if you wanted to learn Revit and add that to your area of interest, we have 3 courses in Revit, a level 1, which is sort of like a beginner's, an intermediate, and an advanced, and you can take the whole vertical. They're very inexpensive. We've learned over the course of doing some research that if you are a designer and you want to work in any of the commercial industry and work for a firm that mostly does commercial, Revit is what they really want people to work in. And so maybe 12 or 13 years ago, we moved from CAD to Revit. And we had to work in Revit in order to work with the architecture firms that we work with when they moved over. So we thought that it would be really good to put those in our initial 13 modules that we launched for Designer Bank and let anybody learn Revit that wants to learn Revit. And you get a certificate at the end. But we also thought we do in-house rendering. We don't farm them out anymore. Okay. So if you know Revit, then you can actually work in another program called Enscape. So we did 3 modules teaching you how to render and develop those skills so that you can sort of see what things look like and come to life in a very 3D dimension. And you can change things very quickly. It's very easy in Enscape to do that. And, I have these 2 pictures behind me. I want to take them out and show something else, or in the window that is in my church of my office. We could take that out and make it clear, or, all of those kinds of things you could do in a rendering. And it's very, very simple. So we wanted to just kind of send some of those skill sets out there to interior designers and have them look at how they can enhance what they're already learning, whether it be on a job or at school. If they had learned some techniques at school, then they can enhance a lot of their techniques with some of the modules that we teach. We also have one on lighting, just basically showing you how you can take a room and change the lighting by just changing some very simple things. We wanted to do that. And while we were doing it, we realized that, just about everyone who wants to get into this field, regardless of what level you're at, you can take these courses and you can really kind of grow some of your skill sets and pretty much give yourself sort of a larger scale set for getting a job. If you know how to render, whether you've even gone to school for interior design or not, if you can render, you can get yourself a job. If you can work in Revit, you can get yourself a job. And if you can really kind of get on top of a lot of the skill sets with that. And that was sort of my main goal. I want people to be able to get jobs in our industry without having to, spend years working for themselves or apprenticing. I wanted to kind of give them that extra skill set.
I love that. And I love that it's so attainable too for those, even people who maybe have, gotten a degree in design might not have enough skill in Revit. Like they just had enough to get by in the class, but don't feel proficient in it yet in order to really do what maybe a future employer is asking of them. So this is a great way, I think, to be able to expand those skills, which everyone should be doing all the time anyway, right? Like to improve your skills to make you more marketable and just more experienced for future projects. So I love that. You also mentioned that even some schools are now looking at adapting your modules as part of the curriculum.
Yes, it is. And we set this up on a learning management system that could work with universities when we were setting it up. We knew that it really filled a gap for a lot of different schools. And so when we created it, we felt that we could have it be an executive education classes, add-ons for anyone that even if they don't go to the school, they could add it on as an online course for just further, enlisting skill sets that they could have. And then in addition to that, I've met with a number of universities already with their interior architecture programs, as well as their interior design programs. And they're accredited. Most of the schools I've been looking at are accredited, and I'm looking at some that aren't, more community college-based schools. And these fill a niche for them, and they're really fantastic because they just really put out a skill set that everybody needs to get, and it really doesn't involve on-the-job training anymore. It's something that anybody can get now, more readily available.
Okay, so is there a prerequisite? So like say you did take some Revit at university, but you feel like you could maybe go into level 2 or 3. Is there like a test that you could take to kind of see which level you might want to start at?
So there is a quiz at the end of each level, but if you feel like you have enough skill set for level 1, you've already accomplished that, then yes, we would let you automatically go to level 2, and you can always contact us if it's too much and you feel like you really need to go back to level 1. Not a problem. We can always change that out for you. So it's an online thing. So it's really not a big deal.
Yeah. So it's completely online, like pre-recorded courses. Is there any live feedback or instruction?
Yes. So it's online. It's a 30-minute module. You get a workbook to go along with it so that you can download the workbook and basically have the workbook to help you follow through, or in the future, go back to it and relook at something. At the end, we do give you a quiz, and you do get a certificate at the end of the course.
Nice. Okay, great. Good. And what if someone is maybe struggling in the middle of it? Is there someone like on standby that they could kind of reach out to get some assistance with? Yeah,
there is. Because it's moving at a pace that is comfortable for you, you can go back and redo it and redo it and redo it, which is what makes it so valuable. Because when you do an online class, you can't really do that. You're moving along at the pace that the teacher or professor wants you to move along. This is at your pace.
Okay.
So if you've got another job and you want to do this in the evening and really learn some of these skill sets, you can do a little bit at a time, and you can go back over it and over it and over it until you actually accomplish the skill. And so that's what makes it super valuable. In addition to that, we do have someone that can answer any questions for you. We just launched in February, so that portion of it may take a little bit longer for response, but we do have those questions that can be answered very quickly while you're taking the courses.
Well, I love that. And I think it's definitely going to be something that is going to be sought after and very helpful to the industry. I know that it kind of birthed out of just teaching people in your own firm and, trying to help them to level up. Do you see expanding into maybe other subjects? I know you have lighting, which I think would be definitely helpful.
So we launched 13 and we plan to launch 30 in the first year.
Oh.
So we had to script them, write them, and basically edit them before we could put them on. And then we kind of test them. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot involved in each of them. And it took me a year to do the 13. So now that I think that we have a script of what works, we can add all of the other courses and we'll be able to offer a lot more as we grow.
Okay. What kind of subjects do you think you might be covering then?
So currently we have the Revit, we have space planning, we have Enscape, and then we have the lighting, we have tile, anything to do with any kind of flooring. And we're going to be adding very specific Revit courses like how to build families. We have a library that we've created over the last 12 or 13 years. So we are possibly going to be adding our library as a potential, like I'll call it a rentable / saleable item, because it took us 12 to 13 years to build the library. And it's specifically for interior designers. Okay. So it's things that interior designers need, and we're constantly adding to it. So it might be an extra item that we're just playing with that right now. Mm-hmm. But we think it would be really valuable for interior designers to have that as they're learning Revit. Mm-hmm. They would be able to access, it's sort of like any other software that you have. You pay a monthly and you're able to access it. And it allows you to utilize that while you're doing all of your Revit skills. So we think that would be an add-on.
Well, that's great. Okay. Yeah, I can definitely see that it's going to just expand. And I'm sure people will reach out too. They're like, oh, hey, could you actually do a course on this? Because I love, the method that you're using, works, it seems, for everybody who's taking the course. So I love that.
Yeah. And I will say, I was not really excited about Revit is difficult. And not only is it difficult, no one ever, I always ask people when they come in for interviews, if you could rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best in Revit, where would you rate yourself? And by the way, no one is a 10. And I always say that to people because there's so much to learn in Revit that there's just absolutely no one that knows everything about it. So people are really good in different areas, mm-hmm. but all of my senior designers are amazing. They use Revit. They're very fast. They're amazing at rendering. They really have great space planning skills, but they don't know how to create families. They don't really know how to do all of those little detail things. And so we have another person that actually does that. There's just so many levels of it to learn. And it's one of those things that I just don't think anyone's ever going to know everything there is to know about it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. So on this podcast, we spend a lot of time on residential to design. So I love exploring more of the commercial. Can you just kind of give us a little overview of how the commercial landscape is looking for projects right now and kind of what the trends are moving toward?
So we work on large-scale multifamily projects around the country, and we do everything from big towers to garden styles. And the amenities that we work on are just so amazing, and the details. So people want really finished, high-level looks like a hotel. Mm. They want you to walk in and feel like you've walked into a really special space. And we do a lot of marketing research along with our clients, and there are different management groups that they hire. So we come up with different trends, new trends for everyone, depending on what location. So we would look at possibly who are the competing projects, what kind of amenities do they offer, what's the clientele, each category, and we would gear it towards that particular audience and market. And then we would sort of come up with new things, for instance. So, we may come up with some really new, innovative fitness areas that are really highly regarded, and you don't really think of them in an apartment complex. Or, for those creative people that really want to have a really cool space to work in and be able to paint and have a studio, we may have, the maker space or a creative space for people to come and have classes and hold different kinds of group, things, parties, that kind of thing, that allow people to be creative and do artistic things like painting or clay, or, where we have wash sinks and that kind of thing. And the same thing, we're adding really cool vending machines for like bicycle storage rooms, where you can get any bicycle fix-it parts, tubes that you might need, so you don't have to order those online. And just coming up with new and creative and innovative things. We have podcast studios that we do, which are very, very fun. And it allows people that don't necessarily have an access to a podcast studio to be able to come down and be a guest or to host some podcasts in their own apartment building. They can just reserve the room, and it's really fun and exciting, and they get a lot of use. So.
I love that. And I love exploring multifamily. I'm just going to ask you some questions because I'm curious about it, because I don't work in multifamily, and the area that I work in is very suburban. Like, there's a lot of single family homes that we work with, but there is some urban infill that's happening in the city. And I'm wondering, with like the way that the housing market is, housing prices, and the current generation that are looking for homes and the affordability and everything, that maybe living in apartments long term is more of a common solution for a lot of people. And that I love that the amenities that you're thinking of for people who are living there long term. It's not just like an in-between place till you get to your house, right? So I can see that you're introducing some things that are like probably definitely trends that I would never have considered 25 years ago. Is that what you're also seeing?
Definitely. We're offering people a place to go outside of their apartment that gives them an area that they wouldn't necessarily have unless they had a larger style suburban home. Like, you can come out of your apartment, and let's say you're working from home 3 days a week, 4 days a week. We can have these Zoom rooms where you can lay all your stuff out on a table and sit on a couch as if you're at home, and have this wonderful sound area for a Zoom conference. And you may not have that set up at home, and you can just come downstairs to the club room and reserve one of the Zoom rooms and or Zoom conference rooms, which we love. And you can put multiple people in them. So if you have multiple people that need to be in the exact meeting, they can either be linked in by the Zoom, or they can actually be in person at the Zoom meeting. So I think getting more creative and we do these, I know these can all be done in residential homes as well, putting in the podcast studio, the music room, I see your guitar behind you, and all of these fun and exciting things that you can do. And people are working a lot more from home and want that flexibility to be creative with environments. And so these kinds of thoughts really add to that and help people to kind of explore those ideas.
Yeah, I love that direction. Yeah, I think that's going to be great for multifamily as we go forward. Is there anything else that you want to share with our listeners today as far as what Designer Bank's doing, or you personally, or any insights?
I was just going to say that all of us started out pretty much in the same arena, not necessarily in the commercial arena. And so everyone wants that opportunity to sort of have that one chance, if they're interested, to get into the commercial arena.
Yeah.
And the one problem that everyone has is that they've not worked in Revit, or they have not had the experience of these large scale space planning and really kind of looking at these larger scale projects. And so what Designer Bank does is it really gives you an opportunity to get that skill set before you actually go to work for someone, so that you can actually get a really nicely paying job and work in that commercial arena if you choose. But if you don't choose, all of these skill sets are amazing for any designers. And that's really why we kind of came up with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and I think that's great too, that to mention that a lot of residentially focused designers will still cross over into commercial, and they need these skills, or they're intimidated by them. But this is a great approach to be able to tackle that and say, like, I always wanted to do a hotel or apartment or whatever. And so this is the next step that they can take to really fulfill that direction of their passion. So I think that's great that you're offering that.
And my favorite modules of the whole entire thing are the rendering. I mean, when you look at something that you've rendered in Enscape and you really get on top of the skill, it looks like the end photo that we take at the end. It's amazing. It's almost hard to tell them apart. And that's really and truly when it's really helping the design.
Yes.
So you can show a client what it's actually going to look like rather than the guesswork. I think it's really super helpful for all designers, both residential and commercial designers.
Yeah. And I know it's probably worth mentioning for especially with commercial design, it's so technical and specific that using probably AI rendering is not even an option at this point. But do you see that maybe Enscape would integrate AI down in the future and to assist and make it more easy to
I do definitely think it could integrate in a lot of different ways. Again, as designer, the most amount of skills that you can learn and gain for yourself makes you a better designer, or you're going to grow yourself in every which way because everything helps us be better at what we do. So I think that's kind of the one thing, where AI, I think, yes, it's incredibly helpful for a lot of different things. And no, we can't really use it in commercial design at the moment because it is so technical.
Yeah.
And we have so many code issues to follow along the way. And we have to work within the architectural model. But we can utilize it for lots of other fun things and integrating it down the road in some of the things that we're doing, including some of the renderings. I do see it coming together as a whole process down the road.
Yeah. Great. Well, it's exciting to see. And it's good to pivot, right? So it's good to stay on top of it. Increasing your skills just increases your opportunities, right? So
Absolutely.
if you're I feel so limited, then just, why not learn Revit and just see what doors can open for you once you've added that skill to your repertoire. So
I think that's really why we wanted it, because I also found it really hard to find the right candidates that we were looking for, because a lot of people weren't working in Revit. At the beginning, when we first transferred over, it was almost nearly impossible to find people.
Yeah.
So now it's less. But I tell the recruiters, you need them to learn Revit. They have to learn Revit because it's what we work in. And so we have to work in what the architect works in. And so that's why we're limited and don't have that flexibility of working. I mean, literally, we almost don't work in CAD anymore. So, yeah.
Yeah. Good to know. Okay. Well, Marcy, thank you so much for coming back and sharing Designer Bank with us. I think it's going to be a valuable resource for listeners. And where can people find you if they want to get some more information?
Sure. So it's designerbank.com. There's an email on there for, I think, info or questions. And you can just do info@designerbank.com and it will come to a group of us and we'll respond to your questions. And feel free to reach out anytime. We're happy to help guide you in any way that we can.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So I know I'm definitely going to check out the program. I don't currently use Revit, but I do think that there is value in learning it and expanding my skills. And I never know what kind of projects I'm going to be partnering on. And lately I have been dabbling a little more in commercial design. And so I think that I need to start pursuing a little more of the world of Revit. And so I'm going to check out her program. And if you'd like to check it out, the links are in the show notes. And we'd love to have you also look at the free downloads that we have for you there. And a link to join My Design Mentor. If you're looking for a mentor as you start out your career in interior design, you can sign up for that. Okay, that's all I have for you this week. Next week, we're going to have another great interview. And until then, stay creative. Thanks for listening. If you love this episode, please leave a rating and a review. This helps me reach other curious creatives like you. If If you have a topic request or would like to contact me, simply head over to my website, rwarddesign.com, or email me at podcast@rwarddesign.com.